GM, welcome to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. Don't get caught in the hype cycle. I'm Jay Bird, joined by my co-host Kyle Reedhead, and we believe that a proof of humanity protocol is going to change the world. That's why we're carving a path for doers to confidently build and invest in Web3.
Proof of humanity is a really big deal. And what Worldcoin specifically is trying to do is a massive endeavor. Will it succeed? I have absolutely no idea, but what they're trying to do is actually really big. And the tech that they're using is so interesting. We're going to be talking ZK rollups, optimism. They're integrating and using like Uniswap. They've got this orb. It's about AI, biometrics, like everything that you've been hearing about tech in the last few years. I feel like Worldcoin has piled it all into one. And a lot of people are scared of that. A lot of people think it's a psyop and it's all crap and it's a scam. But you know what? They actually got some real shit going on here, and I'm kind of excited about it. So we're going to dive fully into this. I don't know about you, Jay, but I'm kind of bullish.
I'm definitely bullish. I mean, if you're not talking about proof of humanity, you need to. Everybody needs to be talking about this. This is the biggest problem our world is facing right now, I believe. Every day it becomes a bigger problem, like exponentially right now. So that's
the biggest problem our internet is facing, maybe. I don't know about our world.
True.
I would say hunger and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there could be other things that maybe
I'm within my my lens in my lane, Web3 Academy.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure that we care about more than just that.
Yeah, you make a great point. I am very bullish on Worldcoin as well because unlike so many other projects that are like, they launch a token and all of a sudden everybody apes in and is talking about them, Worldcoin has been building for years in the background and we have not been talking about them. And there's a lot of, as you said, very powerful tech that they have built, which we're going to dive into all of that. So buckle up, everybody. This is an absolute must-listen episode. Yeah, wow. I'm stoked. Let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors and then let's dive in.
The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or their profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens Protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens Protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we've partnered with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today.
What if I told you that industry pioneers from flagship Web3 brands such as Consensus, Polygon, Binance, Unstoppable Domains, Ledger, and Uniswap will all meet up in one place this summer? You don't want to miss this. I'm talking about the Epic Web3 Conference taking place in beautiful Lisbon on the 9th of June with over 20 curated talks, speed consultations with Web3 experts, networking sessions with investors, and even the opportunity to raise funds. This conference has it all, and you'll get the tools you need to succeed in this industry. Plus, we at Web3 Academy will attend and host a community meetup with you and the other smart community before the main event. So come along, meet us, network, and start building alongside leading Web3 innovators. We can't wait to meet you. Remember, Lisbon, Portugal, 9th of June. We've got a 15% discount for you, but ticket prices go up every few days, so get your tickets today by using the link in the show notes. Enter the promo code Web3Academy15 to secure your spot. Or if you become a pro member, you can get an even bigger discount. So go pro today, and we'll see you in Lisbon, Portugal on the 9th of June at the Epic Web3 Conference. All right, friends, welcome back. Listen, before we get started, if you're listening to this on Spotify, then there's a poll. We want to know if you will scan your eyeball with this crazy thing called Orb that we're going to explain in a second. So maybe do this at the end of the episode, but let us know if you're going to scan. If you're listening on YouTube, then just put your answer in the comments. And then otherwise, please subscribe, like, do all those things. Help us grow this channel. But anyway, let's get into this. Jay, we're going to start with you. Why don't you give us a bit of context here and set the stage for us? What the heck is Worldcoin? Explain it to me like I'm 3 years old, because this stuff is kind of confusing.
Yeah, no kidding. So Worldcoin is aiming to solve two problems. One, proof of humanity, the ability for us to know when you're online that you're interacting with a real human. This has been a problem for a while because of bots. It is becoming a much bigger problem because of AI. With artificial general intelligence, it's difficult to know if you are interacting with a real human online. Very possible you're not. And I think we all agree we don't want to live in a world where you might be getting your information from an AI. You want to know that it is a real human that's created. That's the first thing that Worldcoin, and they're doing that by creating a protocol based around proof of humanity. The second thing that they're aiming to solve is the need for universal basic income. We might dive into that at the end of this episode, but mainly we're going to focus this episode on proof of humanity and this need for a global identity system. So far, Worldcoin already has 1.77 million verified users that have proven their humanity using the orb, which we'll explain in this episode.
Let me just touch on the UBI. The reason that so the whole purpose of this is they want to solve for UBI. And the reason is because AI and technology, as we move into what we've been calling the exponential age for a while now, of all these technologies kind of emerging together, which are going to become very, very deflationary and probably take a lot of jobs from us and allow humans to focus on other things because, well, AI can do it all. Well, the thing is that we are going to need to find a way to support a lot of humans if a lot of humans don't have to do a lot of work anymore. And so there is a need for universal basic income, which is what UBI is. And so it's actually the founder of ChatGPT and OpenAI is who started Worldcoin, because he said, we have a problem here. Two things. We need to be able to prove who humans are, and we're going to need to find a way. And we need to prove who humans are, one, because of the issues on the internet that Jay just explained, but also so that we can give universal basic income across the internet in a digitally native way. I mean, it's impossible to do that if we don't have proof of humanity, which does not fully exist yet, at least globally. And so these are really, really big problems. These are people thinking into the future, which we need, and really, really big problems to solve. And they're trying to solve it all in one shot here. So a lot going on, but really, really interesting stuff. And as Jay said, 1.77 million verified users already. It's not so bad.
I mean, it's an amazing start considering they just came out of beta, 10 days ago? They're off to the races. Okay, let's step back from Worldcoin for a second. Let's start with the problem. Why do we need proof of humanity?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons for this. I think the one that's probably most relatable to us and things that we've talked about a little bit previously is just the idea that AI can now act as a human, right? We didn't really have this capability before, but AI can now speak and talk like a human. It can create visuals and audios like we've seen with the Drake music and video, etc., like a human can. It can even copy the movement and all that of a human. So it can make it look like I am creating a video, even though I didn't do it. And this was never possible before. So that becomes a problem in terms of fake content, right? And then as you have AI, also have AI agents, which is where they not only can create stuff, but they can go execute across the internet, whether that's buying things and selling things and communicating with people and completing tasks. Again, this can create issues of knowing, are you interacting with a human or an artificial intelligence, right? Right now, we have no way of knowing. And so even on Twitter, you use Twitter, even before AI, there's tons of bots. You never really knew if you were speaking to a human or not, if someone that commented on your content was a human or not. And we need to know if these are humans or not in case we are going to purchase things or listen to them and understand things or do research or whatever it is. We got to understand where this information is coming from for many reasons, whether it's you want to give consequences to people who are posting incorrect content, right? You want to be able to pay people. You want to be able to whatever. You need to know who it is. And so that is the one issue I think that we can all kind of understand. It's already basically here, right? And so that's one part of it. The other big part of it, I think, as well, is a lot of countries just don't even have identity at all, right? So like in the US and Canada and Europe, which are most people who listen to this, we have passports, we have driver's license, we have identity, right? And so we can do things with those. there are a lot of countries that most people don't even have a passport, right? Most people don't have a driver's license. There's just no way, like they just don't have that infrastructure yet. And I'm talking like countries in Africa, places in India, etc. And so that's a big problem, right? And then if that's in the physical world, but you got to think in the digital world, even our identities like passports and driver's license, they're not really native to the internet world, right? So it's actually a very weird and cumbersome like experience to try to verify that I am a unique human just in the Web 2 world. Like forget Web 3. It's just weird. Like I usually have to like upload a picture of my driver's license and then like share that I have a I don't know, a utility bill at my house. Like
sometimes you need your birth certificate, which who
I
has?
don't know where that is. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's weird. Even for me, when I was nomadic for the last 5 years, like I didn't have a utility bill. And so I actually couldn't verify that I was human, even just Web 2 stuff all the time because they wanted a utility bill. I was like, well, I don't have one. Like I use Airbnbs all around the world. So what do you want me to do? And so like, it was almost like I couldn't be a human on the internet. So, and again, the more we move to this digital world, and so look, there's many reasons we need, identity, proof of humanity, even in the physical world, but in the digital world, which is, as we always talk about, we're becoming more and more present in the digital world. And especially as the metaverse rolls out and, we're continuing to all work online and live remotely and do all these things, we need the ability to prove that we are human. That's kind of some of the main reasons. And then you also think of like, it's actually getting harder to prove you're human as Web3 comes about, right? We used to have, when you would create an account inside of a platform like Twitter or whatever, you needed an email. Sometimes you needed a phone number, right? Which like you can still hack those and get around that, but it's a little bit harder. But in Web3, it's anonymous, it's permissionless, and you can create any wallet you want. And so, I mean, most wallets that we see, like we see numbers of, I think we just did a pro report last week looking at how many users are there in Web3. Well, in the initial thing, if you just pull how many active wallets there was like 66 million, I think, last month that interacted in Web3. But we don't have 66 million people actually interacting with Web3. It's actually closer to probably like 20 million, maybe even less, which means that the bulk, 65% or more of the wallets are either bots or are duplicates. And so this problem actually gets worse when we're using permissionless systems, which we believe is where we're all going. So we have this really big problem of just understanding who is a human and who is not. And it's happening, this problem is occurring because of old infrastructure in the real world, because of Web3 and wallets, because of AI and bots. And so there's many, many reasons, and they're all sort of coming together, and we're realizing, holy shit, this is a really big problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you nailed that. And I think with the advent of ChatGPT and artificial general intelligence, this problem is growing exponentially because there is content being created at an exponential rate that feels human, that looks human. It's a problem now, but 1 year from now, 5 years from now, it'll be an even bigger problem. So we need to address this problem. Kai, next question. What are the current ways that we prove humanity? Let's just talk about how we currently prove humanity in our system.
Right. So, I mean, there's a few ways. In the digital world, we do it through, Twitter Blue is a verification to basically prove you're a real person. Now, again, you can get around that. We saw that when Elon first launched that, but that's a way. And really all platforms are starting to do this. Facebook is doing this now. Snapchat has this. Look, I don't love this way. I don't love having to pay to prove that I'm a human. You know what I mean? Like, I am human. I'm not paying $8 a month to prove that I'm a human. That's insane. And so I don't love that way. But I mean, a lot of users are on Facebook. A lot of users are on Twitter. Like, it's a decent solution right now. It's the best we've got. It's not a long-term solution. Now, the other way is the obvious way of like government-based KYC, right? So we do this when you sign up, for anyone who's listening, when you sign up to like a crypto exchange, right? You've had to KYC and prove using government documents that you're a unique human, right? The problem with this is, one, it's not global. Right? Like when you go to a bar in a different country, they look at your driver's license. They don't even know where to find where your birthday is. Like, they're like, what the heck is this thing? You know what I mean? Like, is it real? Is it fake? So like, they're not interoperable per se. They like sort of are, but not really. You have to trust that the government of that country is doing it the right way, which you don't really know. It's also like a terrible process. If you've ever gone to any government agency ever, probably in any country, I'm sure there's got to be some Scandinavian countries that do this like really well. Maybe like Singapore as well. I don't know.
Norway, probably.
Yeah. That's what I guess. But like in Canada anyway, it's absolutely terrible. And then you got to go every couple of years, get your picture taken, and like get your new driver's license, get your new health card, go do your passport every few years. And like, it's just a pain in the ass. But these are the things you got to do to prove that you're a human and that you're a unique human in your country. But again, you go to a different country, it's not so great. And some countries just don't have this. It's very difficult in a lot of the countries to even have this kind of stuff. We don't really have a good global solution to this. And then again, none of those, well, so the first one works digitally. The problem is that the Twitter one only works in Twitter. It doesn't work on other platforms like Facebook or like your wallet in, your Ethereum wallet or whatever else, right? They're not interoperable. And then your government issued KYC IDs, again, they're not digitally native. So this is why you have to go through these weird steps of uploading utility bills and blah, 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 which is like pain in the ass, easy to sort of get around. Well, I wouldn't say easy, but somewhat easy. You can obviously get fake IDs and stuff. And so again, it's not scalable and it doesn't work for 8 billion people. Right? It works for your country, your small country somewhat. It doesn't work for the world we're entering when we all move completely digital. So nothing really exists currently to fix this problem.
Well, and how many people globally right now don't even have identity because, as you said, their country doesn't have the infrastructure for that. We know that over some 3.5 billion people are not on the banking system. So they definitely don't have identity because usually once you have identity, the next step that you would take is to link up with the banking system. So they definitely don't. And I'm sure it's even worse than that. So this is go ahead.
And it's also, those are identities to a country. That's to your physical location. We got to remember that the digital world, the internet, is basically a digital nation, right? It's a whole different thing. It is a global world where we all live in probably more than we live or we focus on in the physical world. And so it needs different identity. It needs different things. I don't need someone to prove that I'm Canadian, and I don't need all these passports and things to prove that I'm a unique human in the digital world. It's a very, very different thing. And I'm not saying we don't still need like a Canadian passport, right? And things, a Canadian driver's license. Of course, we still need those things. We still live in the physical world, but those are just kind of not really necessary in the digital world. I shouldn't have to drive a car in the physical world and get a license of that so that I can then have my ID in the digital world where I don't drive cars. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make sense. And then a passport is used so you can leave the country. Well, if I don't leave the country, 50% of Americans have never left America. They don't even have passports, 50%, which is crazy. But again, I shouldn't have to get a thing that allows me to leave and come back to a physical country to do things in the digital world. It doesn't work that way. And I know it's kind of weird to think of, but you got to think of the digital world as a whole new nation. And so we need new identity in that world. And that's really what Worldcoin is trying to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with that in mind, we believe that it's inevitable that there will be a proof of humanity solution. 100%. Now, Worldcoin is the first to do this at the scale that they've done with over 1.7 million users. And they're also the first to really spark this conversation. We talked a little bit about this almost a year ago. We had Evan McMullen, the founder of Disco, on the podcast, and we talked about identity and your digital backpack and taking, your university diploma and moving that verification online, bringing your work verification online, proof of employment, these different things. But Worldcoin is really the first to tackle this proof of humanity problem at the global level. And that is the mission that they have set out on to do.
And think of it as like, you need to prove you're human so that you can sign contracts, so that you can sign off that this content that was posted was actually you, so that the thing that was said was actually you. In the physical world, it's easy to do that. You can just see me physically say it, right? In the digital world, you don't get that. And so that's why we really need this. And it goes more than just content. There's so many reasons. Even like things of like, we talk about airdrops all the time in Web3, right? And right now it's such a hassle. You're giving airdrops, tokens, because you want to give governance for people that use your protocols. But right now everyone farms it with all these bots and all this stuff. And it's like you're giving away a bunch of tokens to a bunch of bots or like duplicate wallets from one same person who's in their basement, like trying to farm this thing. If I'm going to give away some governance or some equity of my protocol, my company, I want to make sure it's actually humans. And again, can't do that. Not possible. So there's a lot of reasons why we need this. Now, Jay, the way we do it in the physical world, kind of weird. We got to go into the store, we got to take a picture, and then they do all this stuff, whatever. They print us this plastic card. What are ways that we can prove humanity that would function and work in kind of the digital world, I guess? But like, how do we do this, I guess, now? And like, what's possible for us here?
Mm-hmm. So the main way that we prove humanity right now is through biometrics. I shouldn't say it is the main way, actually. It's probably not the main way that we prove humanity. The main way that we prove humanity is by taking our photo and then having a government ID. But biometrics is the most reliable way to prove our humanity. Biometrics is basically where you use human characteristics to identify somebody. And there's three main biometrics that can be used. There's face, fingerprint, and eyeball. So every day, if you have an Apple phone or if you have a Google phone, actually, I don't know if Google does this.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They do.
I think so.
So you would scan your face to unlock your phone. That's using face scanning biometrics. Previously, before that, we all used our fingerprint, or on your computer, you might use your fingerprint to unlock your computer. That's using fingerprint biometrics. Now, when you want to scale an identity system, when you want to scale a proof of humanity system to 8 billion people, to the whole world, there becomes a problem with face scanning and fingerprint scanning, because at that number, there is room for error, because faces or fingerprints can look the same. There can be ones that is very difficult to say, oh, this face is different than this face, or this fingerprint is different than this fingerprint.
So you're saying there's someone out there with the same face as me, Jay?
I know, isn't that? It's not.
I want to meet this.
You're one of a kind. There's nobody else like you.
I'm an NFH. I'm a non-fungible human.
Oh gosh, now you're really confusing people. What the heck is that? So enter iris scan or an eyeball scan. The iris offers the best way to prove humanity at scale of billions of people, because our eyeballs have so much, I want to use the word data. Data is not the right word, but they have so much uniqueness to them that you can have billions of people have different eyeballs, and it's easy to tell that the eyeballs are different. I mean, easy is a relative word. But so where does that lead us? That is why Worldcoin has decided to build their proof of humanity protocol using an iris scan. Now, in order to do that, they said, okay, great, we need to build the hardware. So they built what they're calling the orb, and it cost them $50 million to build their first orb, to develop this hardware, to develop this tech, and it's fully open sourced. And this orb, there's currently 200 of these orbs around the world. So it's very new. There's only a few hundred, it's not a lot. And if you want to enter the Worldcoin ecosystem, if you want your world ID, you go to one of these orbs, you scan your eyeball, and then you receive your world ID on the World app. Kai, I know you're going to Portugal soon, which is where there is orbs currently. They're only in a few countries, Portugal, Kenya, India, a few more that I can't remember right now. Are you going to scan? Are you going to get your world?
I think so. The more I learn about it, the more I want to support it. We'll talk about security in a second here, because I know that's the big thing. I remember when Worldcoin came out last year, people were losing their minds. And I mean, I get it. This orb, this weird orb, they're going to scan your eyes. Everyone's like, what the hell is this, right? Like, this is insane. And I thought the same thing too. But the more I've heard the founders speak and have just like understood what they're doing, number one, to solve this big a problem, you're going to need weird, like far out there tech. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course. And then when you understand like, oh, the only way to really actually solve this problem is by scanning eyeballs, at least to do it in the most accurate way possible. Like, again, if you're going to do this, don't half-ass it, right? Don't have some stupid form, or if fingerprints don't work, don't do that. And they're saying, hey, we're going all in on this. We want to do this the best way possible. And that is with eye scanning. And so they built this amazing technology to do it. And so once you kind of wrap your head around that, you go, okay, like maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe this isn't so like psyop, whatever type thing. And for me, I think this is so needed. And so like, yeah, I think I'm going to scan my eye. Like, I don't really understand what's the worst that can happen to it anyway. Why don't we talk about the security side of things, Jay?
Yeah.
Actually, first, would you scan your eye? Would you scan your eye?
Yeah. I'm already scanning my face on my Apple phone. So like, I think it's a bit presumptuous of me to say, oh, I'll scan my face. Yes, Apple is a large company that I think we all trust, but they're a centralized company, right? So there's a lot of risk of where my face scan is stored. So I think that's the first thing. But also, we are curious. This is a total aside, but for Sam's upcoming pregnancy, there's a bunch of drugs that you can receive in order to help with, the pain and pain management. And we were talking about which drugs she would be open to taking. And morphine is one of the drugs that they will give you at the beginning to manage the pain. And Sam is very she's not the experimenter. She's like, no, I don't
morphine.
the morphine.
So
I was like, give me the morphine.
She's like, let's go. He's dabbled into the psychedelics is what he's saying.
Yeah, I've done psychedelics. I'm very on that path.
So you brought up a good point in terms of Apple, right? We already are giving our fingerprints and giving our face recognition or our biometrics to companies. We do it all the time, right? And we do it with Apple. And so if we are allowing Apple to do it, I don't know why we can't let others do it, but everyone does this, right? And so what's the situation with Worldcoin though? What do we know about how they're handling the biometrics that we're taking? The data.
Okay, so I'm going to take a shot at explaining this, and Kai, you can jump in with your thoughts as well, because this is getting very techy and maybe a little bit beyond my comprehension. But here's what I understand. I can basically explain it to a 3-year-old. You get your eyeball scanned. When you get your eyeball scanned, there is a humanity verification that happens that basically verifies that it's not a fake eyeball and it's not an eyeball that already exists in the system. It is a unique eyeball. So that scan happens. And when that scan happens, they create a ZK proof to basically a hash that proves that you're human. And that hash comes from the eyeball scan. They then delete the eyeball scan. So they're not actually storing the scan of your eyeball in a database. They are only storing the hash that was generated.
Hash just means like an ID number kind of thing.
That's a better way to put it. Yes, thank you. An ID number. And that ID number is stored in the form of a zero knowledge proof. So, I mean, we can get into explaining zero. I'm going to not explain zero knowledge proofs right now.
Now, you do have an option, which you can opt into if you'd like, to actually, I think you can move that data, you can encrypt it, and then they move it to the cloud of some sort. And this is done to help train the AI or something, and it's helps their team basically learn more and can improve the experience. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just opt it. Well, you don't have to opt out. You just don't opt into it. So there is a possibility for them to take your stuff, but it's only if you just say, hey, yeah, take it, like do whatever you want with it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So just most people are not going to do that. So ultimately, and Apple does the same thing. They don't actually take your identity and your data and put it onto the cloud or any of that kind of stuff. They don't store it on iCloud. I don't know if Apple deletes it though, but I guess they couldn't delete it. You've got to continuously do it. Well, it's stored on your device.
It's stored on your device. That's what it is. It's
that's what they do. Device. So ultimately, they're doing the best they can in terms of what they do with your data, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's great. I mean, I don't really understand what people can necessarily do with my eyeball scan anyway.
I think the other thing to mention on this is that there's the security around the eyeball scan. The other thing is that they're powered by Ethereum. And as a result of being powered by Ethereum, they're using many trusted companies, many trusted protocols that have been built on Ethereum to enable them to create the World app, which is your wallet. Now, we haven't yet talked about the World app side of it,
but should actually say trustless protocols. When he said trusted, he means like they've been around for a long time and they're blue chips like Uniswap, but this is actually a trustless protocol. Mm-hmm. So we're not trusting anyone here. We are trusting trustless protocol. But let me walk this through for you a second. Here's what happens. You scan your eyeball, okay? It gives you this like unique identifier, and it does this through zero knowledge proofs, so that you can prove the things that of your unique humanity. You can prove those things without sharing all the things, right? So when you go interact with the internet, you have some data about you and you can go prove those things, like maybe your age or whatever else, so that you're a unique human. But you don't actually have to say like, I'm a unique human, and show your driver's license where it shows I'm a unique human. Here's my birthday and here's where I live and here's my address and blah, blah, blah. So that's the zero knowledge proof aspect of it. Now, what happens is they tie that to a self-custodial wallet, as far as I believe, which is a wallet in the Ethereum ecosystem that they built, I believe.
It's called the World app.
Yeah, so that's the World app. And that app basically allows you to, hold Worldcoin. That's where they can airdrop you the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. But you can also use other tokens. So it's a full self-custody wallet, and you can do whatever you want with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it uses Uniswap protocol to trade other
exchange
ERC20 tokens.
Exactly. And then they also have a token, which is called Worldcoin token. It's not live yet, so don't get scammed. If you see anyone out there, which I'm sure there's probably a lot, it doesn't actually exist currently at the time of recording this, but that token is actually being launched on Optimism. Okay, so it's an ERC20 on Optimism, and that's what they use for their UBI. Who knows, maybe some governance stuff will come in there. We're not quite sure how all of this will work. The thing that I like about this is when we talk about Web3, it's all about self-custody, right? It's all about using trustless applications right? It's all about using decentralized applications. And if we think of what Worldcoin does or is doing here, one, they've built this really cool, amazing technology in terms of their orb, right? And they've done it because it is the best way to get unique humanness, right? And then you've got to go, okay, well, what do we do with that data? And the best way to make sure that data is secure and will work digitally and natively is to use blockchain, right? And so what have they done? They've used the most decentralized smart contract platform, which is Ethereum, and they have used self-custody wallets to enable this all. They're using zero-knowledge proofs, which is probably the best tech that we have currently in cryptography to ensure that your data is being secured and not being shared with everyone. They're not even storing your actual data in terms of like your eyeballs that they're scanning. And then the token themselves, they're putting on top of decentralized applications. And then to actually use all the tokens you're getting and to use the application itself, they're creating a good experience because all the tech is underneath there. You don't have to go to Uniswap. It's just already built into the application. And again, they're using decentralized technology like Uniswap to transact and send money and all that kind of stuff. So they're really hitting all the things in the tech stack so far. And right, there's still tons more that needs to get built out, I'm sure, and this whole space will change. But like of all the things we preach and of all the things that we appreciate in the Web3 world, they seem to be hitting all of those, which is very impressive, I think. And honestly, how the hell their devs are doing it is crazy because like to understand AI, biometrics, ZK knowledge proofs, tokenomics, self-custody, like what the hell? I guess they have a team of like 170 people at this point. So they're a big team.
And Alex, I don't know how to say his last name. Blania, do you know how to say his last name? He's the CEO of WorldCoin. He talked about governance being a big part of their plan as well with WorldCoin when I was listening to an interview where he talked about the revenue model that they would have long-term and how there would be opportunity for the community to decide, to make decisions on that. One more thing I want to bring up here is I do find it very interesting how when we think about the initial problem that Web3 really tackled, which was banking and the monetary revolution, the challenge that a lot of the world has is they don't have access to the banking system. And when you don't have access to the banking system, I don't think we fully grasp what that means because we do have access. Let me explain what that means. That means that there is nowhere that you can hold your money. You must hold your money in cash. That means that there is no way for you to invest your money. Okay, I think generally we grasp that. But the third one that really I think impacts the most people is there is no way to send money and receive money unless you
participate in commerce online. You can't buy anything online.
Yeah, that is a huge issue I don't think we grasp. And I just want to quickly talk about Aadhaar, which is India's identity system. I just learned about this earlier today when we were doing research for this podcast. So Aadhaar is an identity system that India built back in the early 2000s. It's the world's largest biometric ID system. Before Aadhaar, not all of India had an identity that it could use. Now, 1.3 billion people in India are all on Aadhaar. They all have an ID. And as a result of having ID, this is the coolest thing that came out of this. Before Aadhaar, 30 to 40% of India was unbanked. They were not in any way able to participate in commerce, as we just said, without using cash. As the result of Aadhaar, India launched UPI, which is their payment network, and it has become the most successful payment network in the world within a country at brought that 30 to 40% onto a form of a banking system that allowed them to participate in commerce. So it sort of showed what WorldCoin is trying to do. Their model is first solve proof of humanity, second solve universal basic income or access to commerce, access to banking. Well, India showed that playbook works when they launched Aadhaar and then UPI.
It's crazy to think how many problems this solves. Once you solve proof of humanity digitally, it gives everyone access to do things on the internet that we just couldn't do previously, right? If you don't have that proof of humanity, you can't do a lot of things. This solves so many things. So here's a question, Jay, as we wrap up. Is WorldCoin going to be the one that solves it? Is this the next Apple? Is this the next fate? Like, you got to imagine whoever solves proof of humanity is going to be the biggest company in the world, is my assumption. Is WorldCoin going to be the biggest company in the world? That's my question for you.
I don't know. It is very clear that we need to solve the proof of humanity problem. That is very clear to me. Someone will solve that. And I hope that it is a decentralized, open source protocol that is built on crypto rails using all the things that we discussed. It's really the only way to solve it. So I think it has to be. Will it be Worldcoin? Don't know. They got a head start. They've got this orb built. They've invested a lot of money. They've got a big team. They've got 1.7 million users already verified. Kyle's about to be 1.7 and 1 users when he goes to Portugal in a week. But I don't know. There's no way it's too early. I mean, will Ethereum be the largest smart contract blockchain? That one feels more likely, but even that we don't even know the answer to.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think that's important to understand, guys, is look, we know it's a big problem. We definitely need to solve it. Is Worldcoin going to be it? Who knows? We're not saying go and put all your money in Worldcoin. That would be ridiculous, right? It is a tiny cup. Well, you can't. There's no token. But also understand, like, it's still tiny. It's only 1.7 million verified users. That's not a lot, right? It's ahead of most others, but it's still not a lot of people considering we're going to 8 billion. And so, like, who knows if this thing makes it or not? There's probably a bunch of companies trying to do this. Are any of them as far as Worldcoin? No idea. Not that we're aware of, but we also could just not know, right? But I think the big thing is for this to work, it has to be on blockchain. It has to be a protocol that no one owns. Because if you're going to scan eyes or do whatever technology we use to proof of humanity, and if one company owns that, if Apple ends up winning that, or Google, or Amazon, or Facebook, or whatever, that is not cool. We cannot have that. That means they control every human's identity. Imagine how bad that would be. That would be terrible. So, that's way bigger than any country. Like, okay, India controls 1.3 billion. That's not even that great, right? Now, it's helped and it's done well, but that's still not great. But imagine India also controlled yours if you're in the US or in Europe or whatever. They control all 8 billion. That's a problem. We need this to be decentralized. We need it to be governed by everyone that's involved. We need this to be a public good, right? Not a company that solves this problem. And other than blockchain, it's not really possible to create a public good because you can't really get the incentives correctly for actually people to participate and do this. Whereas using blockchain and using tokens and all this kind of stuff, you can actually create a system where everyone is incentivized to participate and support the system and build it. Just like Ethereum, we've created this global, decentralized, permissionless database that everyone can participate in. And if it didn't have the incentive mechanisms of Ethereum and ETH, the token, it wouldn't exist. No one would secure it. No one would participate in it, right? And so we need to have these sort of like feedback loops with incentives. And that's what blockchain enables. And so I think Worldcoin is doing it the right way, but I have no idea if they'll be the one that actually achieves this. They've got a great team. They've got a head start, and they've got great tech so far.
And they've got big plans. Kai, you had an interesting take before we hit record about UBI. What are your thoughts on UBI, Universal Basic Income?
So okay, I've always been against UBI. So UBI is basically just like everyone makes the same amount of money. And in this instance, usually you're talking about in a country, like usually when you go like communist, everyone you get a paycheck at the end of every month and that's it. And that's always kind of failed. And I've never really liked that because no one is incentivized to like go and do anything else, to build things, right? And obviously being an entrepreneur, I'm more on the capitalist side. Like I think people should take responsibility for their own life and go and create value to the world, and that's how you should get paid. I do understand that if there is a world where we can get technology to just do all of that for us, we don't need to be entrepreneurs anymore, right? The AIs can be the entrepreneurs, and then humans can go and be creatives and can do other things, right? And that's not necessarily the best way to make money. We've seen that. And even if Web3 fixes a lot of that, I still don't think it's a great way to make money. And so maybe there is a world where we do need some of it. I don't think it should come from governments printing money because that's just not going to work, and because it's just going to inflate away money and things are still going to get more expensive, and it's not a solution. It doesn't work in the fiat world. But I do think that we already have universal basic income in terms of the digital world. I think the digital world have universal basic income. And I say that because Ethereum is basically already doing that, right? We have this database that everyone is going to use around the world, right? For all business, for all money, for whatever. And to participate in that, you need to use ETH. And then to secure that thing, or if you want to participate in the universal basic income, you can stake your ETH and earn anywhere between 4 and 7%. And it's this self-fulfilling thing that has this feedback loop that just continues to work. It never inflates too much because the more people use it, the more it burns. And then that also contributes to paying out the people that are staking. So if everyone just staked ETH and then everyone uses Ethereum, we have this like incentive mechanism to use this public good that won't inflate away. It actually will be appreciated continually as we use it. And so that is essentially a way to create universal basic income right there that we already have in ETH. And so it's possible with blockchain is what I'm saying. Now, how does Worldcoin do that? I don't know. They talked about launching their own L2. So maybe they create a native token to that L2 and that's how they do it. I'm not exactly sure. I never really thought of a way that universal basic income could work until I saw what blockchains do. And Ethereum is really the only one that's currently doing that. Like Bitcoin doesn't do that because again, the BTC that you take, you've got to sell it for other things, right? Whereas everything in Ethereum stays within that economy. And so universal basic income actually works in that sense. So maybe Worldcoin will find a way to do that. I'm hopeful they will. Who knows? It's a long, long journey ahead of them.
Let's wrap here. I got one final thought I want to share before we wrap. And Kai, if you have anything you shared as well. One thing that I found very interesting about the business model for Worldcoin was the manner in which they plan to get these orbs all around the world. In order for this to work, you need orbs all around the world and you need people to be using them, to be scanning them. So you need, not only do you need the orb in various countries, but then you also need people, basically boots on the ground, like marketing the orb, telling people to use it, attracting new users in. And so Worldcoin's plan is essentially like a franchise model where you could sign up and you would be the controller. I'm going to put controller in air quotes of an orb. So the orb would be sent to you. You would set it up in your city and then you would encourage people to use it. And then every time somebody scans, you would get a grant or a percentage of Worldcoin given to you for being the one to bring more people into the network. So I thought that was really interesting.
The thing that's going to be the most interesting to me is when we see the tokenomics. Because right now, all we know is if you sign up, you get Worldcoin. And if you run an orb, you get Worldcoin. So where does the demand come for Worldcoin, right? We can't have everyone getting UBI if everyone's just selling this token. That's the same as fiat, right? If we're just inflating it away. So how do they make this thing actually a sustainable token, like what Ethereum does in terms of activity and burning, et cetera? That's what I'm unsure of, but they've nailed almost everything else. So I'm hopeful that they will have some sort of interesting tokenomic structure here, but I can't wait for that. And we'll definitely do a deep dive on that.
The only thing I heard so far is that one of the things that they're thinking about is when you want to use your World ID, that you might pay fees to use your World ID. So
which makes sense.
Which makes sense, right? You use your World ID to verify, to interact with something.
It's a public service.
Then you would pay a fee to use it. That's the only thing I've seen so far as a possible demand side of.
Which makes sense. It's like you want to use the Ethereum blockchain. You want to use permissionless block space. Well, then you pay a fee to do it. You want roads in front of your house. Well, you pay a fee and taxes to your government to build those things for you. So like these all make sense. You should have some sort of fees if it's solving such a big problem for you, like roads are or permissionless block spaces. So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Final thoughts on your end, Kai?
I was just going to say, like, originally was not so excited. And now the more I learn about this thing, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Nothing surprises me anymore, the way this world's going and the way that tech is going. I'll stay curious and I'll support all these things because I think we need them all. Yeah, I'm on board. I'm scanning my eye in Lisbon.
We will keep you up to date. Kai, I think you'll share with everybody what it was like to scan your eye and get your World ID. We will also keep you up to date on what comes out of Worldcoin because they are moving fast and there's a lot happening on their end. As Kai mentioned, maybe they launch a layer 2. We will see what the adoption of World ID, how that plays out. You can actually go to their website and you can see how many signups they have. It is a live number.
Guys, if you're a big fan of Web3, understand that 1.7 million verified users, that means 1.7 million people have the self-custody wallet of Worldcoin. That's one of the biggest wallets in the world right now. And this has literally been a couple of weeks. So like this thing is moving and is a way to onboard people into Web3. They're already one of the biggest platforms. And I mean, 170 people in their staff. There's not a lot of crypto companies that big. So like you're making moves, whether you like it or not. So let's keep watching.
Thanks so much for listening. And everybody, wherever you're listening, as always, appreciate a like, a comment, a follow on podcast, on YouTube. Come on into Discord if you want to discuss this podcast in our Discord. We have discussions of every podcast where we break them down and figure out what the next things that we need to learn are. So we're all staying ahead of the curve and we can all capitalize on the opportunity of Web3. Have yourselves a great week.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe or follow so that you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, there's a link in the description for our free newsletter where we provide timely, and relevant Web3 insights so you can confidently build and invest in Web3. Make sure to subscribe today. One final note. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto and Web3 are risky, and you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.